Hello all. So this session is going to be on dimensions and measures in Tableau. We have just got an idea about how we can get your data from many sources into Tableau and what are the things that you can achieve with the Tableau for performing a visualization. So just that we have got an overview. Okay, so now it's time for us to understand internally each and every concept which is associated with Tableau to make your data visualization process fruitful. So with that context, the first thing that we are going to discuss is on dimensions and measures. I'm not sure if how many of you have actually identified this one. When I was showing you the demo with connecting to data and stuffs like that, I'm not sure how many of you have just looked into this terminologies, at least dimensions and measures. So the first thing, what happens in your Tableau is that as soon as you have connected your data from other sources, okay, so the one example that I have given here is maybe I'm trying to move a data which is in the database, maybe a SQL data, or it could be a PostGRE data, any kind of data which is there in my database. I'm just moving. How do I move it? Connect it, and then I will establish a data sources. We have seen all those things, and then your data will be residing in your Tableau. Okay, once your data is there in your Tableau, meaning that suppose for example you are having a data like sales data you have. Okay, so for a e-commerce company, because this is the example which we are seeing from the beginning. So let us take the same example. If you have your e-commerce store, and your e-commerce store will definitely have a sales data. So this sales data, using this sales data, you wanted to perform some visualization. So in this process, what will you do? Obviously, you will put the data which is there, I mean the sales data which is available in my DBMS into my Tableau. Okay, I'll connect it to via Tableau, and then I will get the data source. So which means it is clearly giving me an indication that the data which I have it inside my Tableau is going to be in the form of a table, if I have got the data from my database. So the table will be a combination of your rows and columns, right? So this is something which is known to all of us. And in whatever you call it as a row and a column and a table in your traditional RDBMS system, when it comes to Tableau, what it is called is every single thing which is there in your database is going to be called as a field. Okay, say for example, if you have your sales data will have some information. What sort of information it is going to have? It is going to have the sales ID, then the transaction time. All these things will be there, right? So sales ID is a field, transaction time is a field, transaction date is a field. Okay, so now once your data is inside your table, it is going to take up the form of field. As soon as it is I mean it has come inside your Tableau, when we connect the data, automatically Tableau will do one thing. Okay, the software itself will do one thing. What it will do means it will classify each field which is present in your database as a dimension or a measure. Okay, so which means Tableau is grouping the fields by their dimension or measure. Okay, so just because Tableau is doing this automatically, it is not necessary that we should not be knowing about these things. Okay, but it is important for us to understand why it is doing this dimension and measuring, and what are all the fields will take up the position in your dimension, and what are all the fields that is going to occupy as a measure. We need to understand that. So first of all, we will try to understand what is the dimension. So dimension, as this picture which I have showed you, it actually takes up the form of slicing and dicing. Okay, so the dimension is simply, you call it as slice and dice. Why? Because of these it is called as a slice and dice, we will try to understand that. Okay, so now what is a dimension? Okay, so whenever you're going to have a measure in a, a measure is given as a field, and that measure which is given as a field is supposed to be an dependent variable, which is supposed to be an independent variable, then you call that as a dimension. Okay, so might be you will be getting confused with what theoretically I'm talking about, but this simple example will give you an idea of what I'm speaking about. Okay, so now what is the meaning of dimension is that, see, you are able to see this one, right? So you have something called as a sales. Sales is nothing but a field, right? So now when I have a field like sales, I can actually divide this field further. How I can divide it means, I can divide as the sales which happened in Central America, the sales which happened in East America, the sales which has happened in South America. So like this, the entire field can be broken down. Okay, so how it is broken down? It is broken down based on the region. Okay, so when it is broken down by region, we can get better insight on the data. Okay, so as you can see here, we can make a clear cut one idea. We can get it from this visualization. What is it? The south region is having relatively low sales compared to the other regions. Okay, so this is the idea of my dimension. Okay, I hope you got an idea, right? So the entire field is going to be broken down based on certain things. That's what you call it as a dimension. And this will always be an independent variable. Most of the time, the fields that is falling into the category of dimension will be qualitative in nature, which means the field doesn't have a numerical value. Okay, you don't have a specific measure which is dealing with the field. Okay, anything which is in the form of categorical thing, it is going to be your dimensions. I hope you got an idea on what is dimension. Now let's move ahead and understand what is the meaning of measure. So measure should definitely be an opposite of whatever I have spoken about in terms of dimensions, right? So dimensions, I said it will be categorical in nature, and it will not be a quantitative value will not be there. But when it comes to measure, you will specify the correct value that is associated with every fields. So if I say total sales, it is going to be one value. So the total sales is going to be one value. Okay, so and that value will be a numeric value. So whenever any field is having this kind of definition, then you will call the corresponding field as a measure. Okay, so that is again a independent variable, because that total sales is something which you will be getting it from the multiple sales. Okay, so which is a function of one or more dimensions. So you take one or more dimensions and you apply some function on to that dimensions, you are getting some quantifiable value. Okay, some quantitative value. That's what you call it as a, that's what you call it as a that's why it is called as a measure. Okay, so now that you could have got an idea about what is basically theoretically what is the meaning of a dimension and what is the meaning of a measure. Okay, so why did I say for dimension as slice and dice is because of the reason it is actually splitting up, right? The splitting up, you can further divide, you can break down the field completely. So that's the reason why you will call that corresponding dimension as a slice and dice. Analogy is being used for it. Okay, so that is about your dimension and measure theoretically. One more thing what I wanted you to understand is that, see, this is the general definition that we are giving it to understand what is the meaning of dimension and measure. Okay, so there is always a possibility that these kind of theoretical understanding that you're getting will have an exceptions. So to understand what kind of exceptions could arise in terms of dimension and measure, I've just put some examples. Okay, say for example, you are having a you have a business, and this business is you for whatever kind of operation that is being performed, or any kind of sale which is happening with respect to your business, you associate that corresponding sale with an ID. Okay, that ID is a numerical ID. Okay, so you make a first sale. That first sale you will be saying it as order 1, which is assigned the number 1, and then order 2. So every sale which is happening inside your business or inside your organization, you are associating an ID with the sale. Okay, so this is the simplest example. Now, how do you, whether it falls into a dimension or a measure? This is the question. Okay, so now we know that the definition of dimension is clear for us, and the definition of measure is clear for us. Now that we wanted to understand whether this order ID field, does it have to fall under dimension or it has to fall under measure? Okay, so as per the definition, you very well know that the Tableau is going to classify this order ID field as a measure. Okay, as soon as you connect your data set, it is going to say that corresponding order ID as a measure. Okay, but actually speaking, order ID is a dimension, because we can actually slice this. How we can slice this means, by order ID, you will you will wanted to find out the sales. By order ID, you will slice it and try to find out how much revenue we bought in per order. Okay, so this is a sliceable component. So this could be identified as a dimension. Instead, this, as soon as you connect it, and this can be misunderstood as a measure. These kind of things could definitely happen with your Tableau. So that's the reason why we are discussing about dimensions and measures. Even if the software is doing a misclassification, we will be getting to know whether what is a dimension and what is a measure, and we can actually do the changes of converting from a dimension to a measure, or from measure to a dimension. Okay, so this is one way kind of misclassification could happen. And another way is that so see what happens is that see, there is always a possibility that your Tableau is going to misclassify the fields. Whenever you are going to have a field that should be a measure, and that field is actually having a null. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that say for example, I have this is the field I have, and this field ID is the field which I have, and in this field this is actually an ID field, so I wanted this to be a measure. Okay, I wanted this field to be identified as a measure. However, what happens in Tableau is that in case if the first value of this ID is marked as null, what Tableau will understand means, Tableau will understand this as a string. Okay, so which means that if it is a string, it comes under the category of your it comes under categorical. So when it is categorical, naturally this field will be understood as a dimension by Tableau. Okay, so that's one more thing that could actually do a misclassification with your Tableau. So these are some of the cases that I wanted to show to you, that this kind of misclassification is something which is possible, because software is definitely not as smart as how a human is going to be, and software cannot think in the way how a human is thinking. So the example is this order ID example. You can probably understand, like very blankly a machine can say that it is having a numerical value. I'm just classifying this as a measure. It could be said in that manner. So this is the way always machines can actually go wrong. Okay, so what you can do is that once you have the understanding of a dimension and measures, then you can actually do a reclassification. Okay, so I'll show you how we can do all such things. So this is the theoretical concepts regarding your dimensions and measures. Now let's go back and understand how and see in our environment what is happening. All right, So now what you have, what I'm showing you right now is Tableau Online. I'm going to show you almost all of the features in Tableau Online itself, just because of the reason most of you would end up using the Tableau Online instead of using your desktop version. So I'm also going to take up all the things in your Tableau Online, and you can actually get an idea what are the difference which is available. Now here you have an option called as create, and then when I click on workbook, okay, so this will give me an option for connection. Okay, so now I just wanted to show you how your uh, data, I mean dimensions and measures are there. So that's what I wanted to show you. So now there is one data source is already available, which is your superstore, right? So this is a sample one. I'm just going to connect it. See here, you will have on the site whatever is there, and files, if you wanted to connect, you can connect it. Connectors are there, dashboard starters are there, everything you can connect it here. So just I'm connecting this. So once this is connected, you can see here. Okay, so now come down, see here. Now see here, there is something called as a measure names, and these are all the things which comes as a category of dimension. Okay, now suppose for example, let me do one. Okay, I just have to show you one more thing also. Let me just show to you that part. So suppose for example, I just wanted to put certain things into your uh, dimension, and I wanted to put few things um, in your measure also. Okay, so let us see how we can do this. Okay, now let me just tell you, like, um, first thing what we are going to do is, of course, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to put the segment is there, right? So let me just put the segment and the region. Okay, segment, and there is one more thing which is called as segment is there. And what about a region? Where is the region? Okay, so yeah, segment is okay. So let's keep only the segment in the row shelf. Okay, so now what, here you can see that it is blue in color. Okay, so what this blue in color means is that it is a dimension. Okay, you can see that it is sticked with a dimension. So when you click on this one, okay, when you click on this one and you wanted to make changes, you can do the changes here. Okay, changing your field to your from dimension to measure, if you wanted to do it, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, and then maybe I will put this here. Let me just move this here. Okay, so yeah, so now what I have is that order date. Okay, so now what I have put is order date. Okay, and then I have this sales, right? So sales also, let me just put it here. Okay, see, can you make out the difference here? See, if you see order, it is in blue in color, and this is in your um, green color. And when you click on this, what you can see is continuous is being clicked, and also measure is checked. Okay, so anything that is being shown in a blue color is what you call it as a it's a dimensions, and anything that you do with your green color is what you call it as a measures. Okay, and you can actually convert your machine, dimension to your measures, and anything could be done. Okay, so most of the time what happens is that Tableau will automatically classify as a field as a dimension. Even sometimes if you wanted to aggregate also, it will sometimes classify that as a field, as a dimension. Okay, so sometimes it will also to tell you in a very simple manner, what do I talk about, what is the reason why you wanted to convert a dimension to a measure, is that, see, we saw the example, right? Like order ID, we saw that, and that actually needs to be a dimension, but then it was misinterpreted as a measure, right? So you can actually go ahead and change that. So the options for changing is already there, and I have showed you all the things. So that's all about the dimensions and the measures. Hope you got an idea on what is the meaning of your dimension and measures. Okay, so that's all for this session. And yeah, so just let me just finish off this session with the summary. So what is the summary we have identified is that once the connection is done, when you drag and drop your fields, what is the meaning of a green and what is the meaning of a blue will essentially help you to get an idea on what is the difference between your dimension and measure. Once that is understood, you can actually do a better visualization. Okay, so that's about your dimensions and measures. And in next session, we will look into data types and the default properties which is available in your Tableau. Hope you had a wonderful session. That's all for this session, and thank you.